Between now and the end of the season, Bayern for sure favourites to win the league.
Well, I mean, I think a lot's going to be decided, Dan, in the head-to-head, obviously coming up in, about 3 weeks. But certainly the momentum, stating the obvious here, has shifted. The one thing you wonder about is I'm not sure all of Bayern's ills have all gone away all at once. I think it's more of Borussia Dortmund maybe kicking down a notch. Obviously, they had their injuries. This is a younger team, setbacks. And I think the Champions League, again, is going to play a pretty big part in this. Obviously, Borussia Dortmund out. How much of that will it be a distraction or take energies away from a Bayern team that, in certain positions, I think remains somewhat thin?
0-0, of course, was the result in the first leg at Anfield as we look ahead to Bayern Munich against Liverpool this week. Liverpool are just favourites to advance to the quarter-finals ahead of Bayern Munich.
Particularly because, as it's been well documented, Liverpool have had pretty up and down period in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that is a surprise. I mean, some people have said, or it has been muted, that Liverpool should forego the Champions League to concentrate on the Premier League because that's more important for them. However, I think whilst the Bundesliga is important, with how it's been panning out in the Champions League, with the likes of Real Madrid going out, Bayern Munich, this is a hugely important competition for them, and I think their focus will be more on the Champions League than it would be necessarily on the Bundesliga, which they've won so many times recently. However, I don't see how Liverpool are quite favourites. They're going to go there, I would imagine, play a more defensive game than we see normally from a Liverpool side and look to hit on the counter.
Let's say for a second that Liverpool is bounced out of Champions League in this second leg against Bayern Munich. They're going to look back at how disappointing that first leg was, that 0-0 at home, where they never really challenged Bayern Munich. They never really got after Bayern Munich at a time where Bayern Munich was vulnerable. Now, over the last couple of weeks, Bayern Munich now look like world beaters.
They look great today.
And so when you see this team play the way that they did, and so much more in that first game, and now we find ourselves in a position where you're playing against a confident team that feel a whole lot better about themselves, that are not nearly as vulnerable as they once were at home. Good luck. I mean, it's just, this is not just the one game that they're playing against Bayern Munich at the Allianz Arena. This comes from a couple of weeks ago where you didn't do enough at home and you didn't really test Bayern Munich. In the end, if they don't advance, they'll be punished for it.
A lot more, of course, on that game throughout the week. And just a reminder, extra time with you every day. You can check us out over on the website.
Stadium for Premier League news.
Mo Salah has declared he's willing to give up on his dream of winning the Champions League only if it means Liverpool can end their 29-year wait for a league title this season. Jurgen Klopp's side faced Bayern Munich on Wednesday, although it appears their domestic challenge is the priority, as Simon Crabtree now explains.
On the eve of a crucial Champions League trip to Germany to take on Bayern Munich, Liverpool's Mo Salah says if he had to choose, he'd rather win the Premier League title, the first time in Liverpool's history.
I'll be honest with you, the most prestigious competition for me is the Champions League. But the dream of the entire city and the club is to win the Premier League. So I'm happy to sacrifice my dream for their dream. But if we win both, that would be great. And this is what we are trying to do. I'll be happy to win the league over the Champions League though.
Being one of the biggest names in world football also brings big transfer talk. And while Liverpool are adamant that he's not for sale, Mohamed Salah continues to be linked with the Italian side, Juventus.
The problem with all this transfer talk is that it came up in the middle of the season and in the most important period for me and for all the team. It is too early to talk about the transfer market. All I'm doing is concentrating on the moment and our race for the Premier League title and on the Champions League, of course. Then we will see what will happen.
Despite Liverpool firing 4 past Burnley at the weekend, Salah himself is currently in the middle of a relatively lean spell. He hasn't scored in any of his last 5 matches, the longest he's ever gone without a goal since arriving at Anfield.
Oh, my mind is sharp. I'm sharp. I want to win everything. There is a pressure, but this is normal. We are human beings, so I'm strong mentally, and yeah, we have to just keep going, and we'll see what we can reach end of the season. But mentally, I'm ready for everything.
One final training session here before heading out to Germany, finally poised at 0-0 from the first leg, all to play for against Bayern Munich. Simon Crabtree at Liverpool's training ground for Premier League News.
Bayern Munich manager Niko Kovac has been speaking ahead of Wednesday's second leg against Liverpool, and he's confident his side will go out directly to win that match. The goalless draw at Anfield means that any score draw will see Bayern eliminated, so they'll have to win the game outright if they are to progress and must find a way to get past the Liverpool defence.
Looking at the result, many will say it's a little advantage for Liverpool if they score an away goal. If we want to get further, we must score at home. I believe there will be no 0-0 tomorrow, as we will have to win.
Now, the Premier League title race looks set to go down to the wire, and so does the challenge to reach next season's Champions League spots, with 4 clubs playing for 2 places, barring a complete meltdown, of course, by City or Liverpool. Let's remind ourselves of a pivotal weekend for the top 4 chasers and what it means for the players involved.
Spurs are unbeaten here at St Mary's.